It's hard to believe, but college football's regular season is half over. The Alabama Crimson Tide is undefeated, highly ranked, and heading into the second half of the season is one of the favorites to play in the BCS championship game. WVUA Sports Director Gary Harris has been keeping a close eye on the Tide all season long, and he joins me now with more. Gary, thanks for being with me again today there, buddy.
It's a pleasure, as always.
Friday afternoon fun with Gary.
Let's see, Bama's a 26-point favorite on the road at Ole Miss.
Wow.
Ole Miss last night suspended 4 players, including 2 starters. Not really anything to talk about. I'll see you next week.
That's really it. Open and shut.
No, I mean, seriously. I mean, you always have to be leery of Houston Nutt and Ole Miss. And I know I've been on radio shows this week, of course, Tider Insider TV here. We've talked about it and had some people call me and say, you're not serious. You're not really serious saying Ole Miss could give Alabama a competitive game. I am serious because it's the nature of the Southeastern Conference. Just when you think you've got it going, something happens to kind of let you know that every week you got to be ready to play. I think it happened in the first half last week against Vanderbilt for Alabama. So that's the good news. I think Alabama probably got a little bit of a reality check last week. But, you know, let me say this, and Nick Saban has pointed it out all week long, Danny. Since he's been at Alabama, the games have been tough against Ole Miss. Even 2 years ago, when Alabama went to Oxford and just physically manhandled them, the score was 22-3. Last week, it was 23-10. You remember Saban's first year when Orgeron was still the coach at Ole Miss. It came right down to the wire. In fact, a controversial pass interference, or no call that Ole Miss thought should have been, or was actually pass interference on Ole Miss, helped Alabama win that football game. And then Saban's first home game here against Ole Miss in 2008. Alabama was leading comfortably, then Ole Miss faked a field goal, and that game wound up being close. So they haven't blown Ole Miss out in a while. I mean, just completely blown them out score-wise. I do think it could happen tomorrow. I think this Alabama team is on the verge of greatness, and what I mean by that is just going out and not letting these kind of teams hang around, just going out from the opening whistle and just blowing them out. And I'd like to see that tomorrow for Alabama. I think it would be a step in the right directions in terms of, you know, this really being a dominant football team.
There you go, and you raised a very interesting point. You know, beating the teams you're supposed to beat the way you're supposed to beat them, and going ahead and just ending it. I think a couple of weeks ago whenever we were playing Florida, and we kind of lingered there in the third quarter and we had a big lead on them, but it was a game they could have gotten back into. Yeah. A couple of, you know, threes and outs, and they get a score or two, and there you are. You got a ball game.
Well, it's like you said, beat these teams the way you're expected to beat them. Alabama's a 26-point favorite tomorrow on the road, which means at halftime, basically, this game needs to be decided. And I think that's the challenge for Alabama, is just being focused, being ready to play, bringing the same kind of attitude and intensity they brought against Arkansas, they brought against Florida. If they do that, bad news for Ole Miss. I mean, let's just be honest. But if they do come out lackadaisical, Ole Miss, you know how, confidence is a funny thing, Danny. I asked a beat writer from Mississippi earlier this week if the Ole Miss players really thought, they even believed they could win this game. He said, I don't know. But, if they get into the game and a couple of plays go their way, you can build confidence in a hurry. That's what Alabama doesn't want to happen. They want to just, as you said, get this thing over with, get some of those guys out and start getting them ready for Tennessee and LSU.
There you go. And I guess the game that's really going to be the most interesting matchup in the SEC this week is going to be Auburn and Florida.
I think so. You got two loss teams. Neither one of them can afford another loss in the Southeastern Conference. The loser of that game, their SEC chances are going to be severely hit. I think it's a pretty, even matchup. Florida doesn't have a quarterback right now. Brantley's out. Driscoll didn't play last week. They were down to their third teamer. They're saying Driscoll may play this week. Auburn's got quarterback issues of their own. Barrett Trotter has been the starter, but there are a lot of the fans that want to see Kyle Frazier, the freshman, take over. Auburn's coming off a lopsided loss at Arkansas. But I think this game will be close, Danny, and looking at Gene Chiswick's track record, if it's close, you have to like Auburn's chances. I mean, they've won all the close games the last couple of years.
There you are. Anything else going on in the SEC?
Yeah, there's an interesting matchup up in Knoxville, LSU and Tennessee. I mean, LSU's clearly the better football team, but again, much like Alabama and Ole Miss, when you go on the road in this league, you got to be ready to play. And remember last year, Tennessee in Baton Rouge, had 62 men on the field, but, they scored what looked like it's just they had 13, but they scored what looked like the game-winning touchdown. It was ruled the game-winning touchdown, so they were right there in that game. Tennessee is one of those places, and, through the years, Tennessee, let's see, check the series record here. Tennessee has beaten LSU, leads at 20-8 and 3 ties.
Wow.
So they've had, they don't play every year, but they've had LSU's number. I think that could be a tricky game for LSU.
All right, and we're running out of time, but really quickly, you got football Friday night. What else is going on?
Well, we got Fearless Picks coming up at 5, regular sports tonight at 6, Alabama Ole Miss preview at 10, then football Friday at 10:30, Crimson Tide kickoff in the morning at 8 a.m., Sports Saturday tomorrow night at 10:15.
All right, super. Gary, thanks much, buddy. You don't forget, you can get your game day started bright and early right here on WVUA TV. Join Gary Harris and John Huddleston for Crimson Tide Kickoff, presented by Alpha Insurance, Saturday at 8 a.m.